If I told you about a country in the world that has a kind of prison for polar bears, what would be the first place you would think of? Well, in this video, we go to Canada, to the Arctic, to this country that is the center of ice hotels and winter festivals. Grab your tea, coffee, sit back, and enjoy the video. Canada has been voted the 13th happiest country in the world in the 2023 International Happiness Report, thanks to its cosmopolitan structure, low tax system, clean air, and unique nature. Canada, the second largest country in the world after Russia, has a total area of 9.98 million square kilometers. Therefore, there are a total of 6 different time zones. In addition, the country has a width of about 6,000 kilometers from east to west. A flight from one end of the country to the other takes about 6 to 6.5 hours. Despite its vast size, 90% of Canada's land is unused. In other words, only 10% of the country is inhabited, making Canada one of the least densely populated countries in the world. The major cities are located in the eastern part of the country. As you can imagine, the longest land border in the world is the one between Canada and the United States. And the most amazing thing about it is that there is no military security at all on this border. Imagine you have the United States to your south, the United States to your west, and Greenland, which is part of Denmark, to your east. It is impossible for Russia to make any military move from the west because of the weather and the US barrier. Your only active neighbor is the United States, the most developed country in the world and your ally. No wonder it is one of the most secure and developed countries in the world. With its technology-based industries, Canada is a world leader in telecommunications, biotechnology, and pharmaceuticals. Canada, which was the third country to go into space after the United States and Russia, is also rich in underground resources. It has the world's third largest oil reserves after Saudi Arabia and Venezuela. Speaking of space, here is an interesting anecdote. According to a discovery made in the 60s of the 20th century, gravity is lower in much of Canada than in the rest of the world. Therefore, if you weigh yourself in these regions, it is possible to come out weighing less than you actually are. Approximately 10% of the 37 million people in Canada are 65 years of age or older. Therefore, the average age of the country is 40 years old. The average age of marriage is 29 for men and 27 for women. 3/4 of the population identifies as white, while Asians make up 10% of the population, Aborigines 5%, Singers 3%, and Latinos 2%. Let's take a trip back in time. Canada has been a junk for Aborigines for thousands of years, but in the late 15th century, the British and French established their first colonies around the Atlantic coast, and the region gradually came under British control. However, the United Kingdom lost what is now Canada towards the end of the 18th century as a result of various civil wars. The name of the country was found by the French explorer Jacques Cartier, who misunderstood the natives. This explorer misunderstood Kanata, which means village in the local language, and the name of the country became Canada in literature. Canada's flag is quite striking with a large leaf in the center. The flag features a white square in the center of a red background, and within this square is a red maple leaf with 11 points. The capital of Canada is Ottawa, a little-known city of about 1 million people, which is the second coldest capital in the world. Toronto, the most popular city, is the largest in terms of size with about 5.5 million inhabitants. Toronto is also home to the longest street in the world. Yonge Street, which dates back to the 1700s, has been included in the Guinness World Records. The street is exactly 56 kilometers long and starts at Lake Ontario. It takes about 40 minutes by car and 9 hours to walk. Montreal, the second most populous city in the world, is the most European city in the Americas, with a population of about 3.5 million. In fact, Montreal is the second most French-speaking city after Paris. Although Canada has been compared to the United States, the people of this country, which was founded by immigrants from Great Britain and France, live more in keeping with their European heritage. 1 in 3 Canadians speaks French, and Canada does not have a single official language. Signs in the city are in two languages, English and French. Also, according to studies, 1 in 5 Canadian citizens was born outside of Canada, making Canada a very cosmopolitan country. Canada also accepts a large number of refugees each year. In fact, Canada accounts for more than 10% of the world's annual refugee resettlement. Canada is also the most educated country in the world, with more than half of its citizens having at least a bachelor's degree. Its currency is the Canadian dollar, and the most common language in the country is Christianity, with approximately 67% of the population practicing Christianity, 3.2% practicing Islam, and 5% practicing other religions. In contrast, about 20% to 25% of the Canadian population does not believe in any religion. On the other hand, Canada, home to about 60% of the world's polar bear population, is taking some interesting measures to deal with the overabundance of polar bears. For example, there is even a prison for polar bears in a town called Churchill. The building, which used to be an airplane hangar, has been converted into a prison for polar bears that migrate into the town during the fall months and steal food from homes. Since the population can double during the migration period, this measure was taken because the bears were becoming a threat to the local population. Also, in some parts of the country, it is strictly forbidden to lock the doors of houses and cars. So if you live in Canada, you should always keep your car and house accessible so that people can escape from possible polar bear attacks. By the way, the license plates of cars, motorcycles, and snowmobiles in the northern regions of Canada are in the shape of polar bears. In addition, with 10% of the world's forested land, Canada is a unique lake paradise with more lakes than the rest of the world combined. This represents approximately 60% of the world's lakes. Ontario alone has more than 250,000 lakes. Canada also has the third largest lake island in the world. That is, the island above the lake, above the lake, above the lake, above the lake, above the island. This small lake island on Victoria Island was discovered a few years ago by map enthusiasts browsing Google Maps. Canada is also a country of dinosaurs. Dinosaur Provincial Park in the province of Alberta is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. The area contains fossils believed to be 75 million years old and is one of the largest dinosaur cemeteries in the world. One of the world's most spectacular natural phenomena, the Aurora Borealis, can be seen most clearly and closely in Canada's Yukon, Nunavut, and Northwest Territories. Explained as the interaction between the Earth's magnetic field and particles scattered into space by the Sun. This colorful display, which intensifies as you approach the North Pole, lights up the sky with a greenish glow, and sometimes a faint red, especially between November and February. Basketball, a popular game in America and around the world, was invented by a Canadian named Dr. James Naismith. Finally, let's go to one of the most extraordinary hotels in the world. Located in the province of Quebec, the Glass Hotel is the only glacier hotel in North America. It is rebuilt every year using 30,000 tons of snow and 500 tons of ice. The hotel, which takes about 6 weeks to build, has a different concept each year. As you can see, there are many unusual things about Canada. If you want to learn more about other regions of the world with unique features, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss my videos. See you in the next videos.